So, Jason, what is MOSH?
MOSH is a tool that is used by Linux administrators typically to log into remote servers. And of course, there's always SSH. So you might say, well, what do I need MOSH for when there's already SSH?
Sure.
And here's the thing, SSH sessions kind of don't play nice with disconnects, internet that's up and down, or if, especially this is probably the main use case for MOSH, you want to be able to pick up where you left off on one session and go to another computer and continue your secured session.
Okay.
That's, this isn't a Linux tool podcast. It is a cryptography podcast in a sense. So let's talk about what's interesting about how it's accomplishing this securely.
Okay.
So I'll give you the punchline first, which is it all kind of, in order to make this really simple, the MOSH designers chose to use a shared secret. Something you and I have said is like, it's essentially, it's what's typically the biggest weakness in any kind of authentication system. And in this case, I just wanted to point out where very clever usages of it can make a system very usable.
Okay.
And, it serves as an example of where shared secrets employed well and for the purposes of simplicity can actually play nice in a system. So MOSH actually sits on top of SSH.
Okay.
But as soon as the SSH handshake authentication is done, it hands everything over to UDP.
Okay.
And UDP as a protocol is much better at being able to be redirected and survive downtime of network and be able to move from one session to another. UDP gives you those properties. That's not what's interesting here to us. What's interesting here to us is, all right, what is the actual encryption going on underneath this? All right, so if I want to move a session from one place to the next, I can generate in MOSH a shared secret. And that shared secret, if it's then typed into the next session wherever I go, even if it's on the same computer because there was downtime, system went down, therefore, all right, I need to reestablish the system. It's just a really nice way, a really, really elegant way of very quickly like spitting out a little bit of human readable text and be able to copy and paste that where it needs to go. Now, secure? Well, no, not at all. But here's the argument. Here's the argument.
Okay.
If your computer already has something that could read memory, in other words, if it's scraping your clipboard
Right.
for the copy paste, you're so hosed anyway that it doesn't really matter. And so I think that's the argument of the MOSH folks. What that little bit of text shared secret actually bootstraps is actually an AES. I forget exactly what the key length is, but it's an AES encrypted in OCB mode set of encryption going on, so that everything else is encrypted after that initial SSH, like handshake, and then UDP happens, and then AES encryption is proceeding after the point at which you gave it the shared secret. And so, wow, if I really look at that, it's like, okay, it's an unproven protocol. In other words, I think that there needs to be more tire kicking by white hats to see whether or not there's a problem in the implementation. But to me, what I would normally call out as the weakest part of the implementation being the shared secret is actually just a bit of elegance, because you don't lose the encryption, you don't lose the forward secrecy. And the threat model against it is, if the attacker has the capacity to read that shared secret, you're already hosed anyway. And so the point to this is this. We call out shared secrets as being the big weakness. And I think as an authenticator in themselves, it is weak compared to other forms. But I think in terms of used as an elegant feature, in conjunction with perfect forward secrecy, strong encryption, right? It can give you something that actually is not really compromising any more security than it has to.
Right. That's an interesting phrase. Any more security than it has to. So the argument goes, and let me play this back and tell me if I'm getting this right or not. Yeah, it's less secure, but it's just a little less secure, and we still feel pretty secure, and the benefits are pretty good. So we think we should do it.
Yeah, because the benefit of it is,
Yeah.
you don't have that barrier of straight SSH of not being able to have portability.
I mean, so this is always what we do in security, right? We're always trading off a level of security versus other benefits. Accessibility, flexibility, usability, cost, uptime, right? I could take that laptop and I could drop it in a block of concrete and wait for it to dry and go drop it in the ocean and be highly confident that nobody's going to get any data off that laptop. But that includes you, right? And so we don't make that trade-off. We don't deem it to be a good trade-off, right? We do live in the real world, and we have to make these security compromises in the real world, right? I think an analogy I used not that long ago is every time that I get in my car, I'm aware that that could be the day I have a fatal accident. I just deem it to be extremely unlikely, and it's worth it because that way I can actually go get groceries, right? And so this is the trade-off we make all the time. And I think you're saying, yeah, okay, we're going to compromise security a little, but we've done a whole lot to bolster it, and we feel good about it.
Yeah, because we call out weaknesses more than we call out, the positives quite often.
I think you're probably right.
And this is one where it's a particular weakness that we've called out a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I just wanted to point out that there are ways to be smart about things, to minimize what risk you take on.
Yeah.
And so you can keep elegance and not give away a lot of security.
And that's great. That is a really good point. And another part that's kind of connected to that is so often it isn't all or nothing.
That's it.
Right.
And especially in the world of SSH specifically, because unmanaged SSH keys are kind of the norm. Yes, there are people out there who manage their SSH keys beautifully.
Right.
I just don't think that's the majority by any.
There's all kinds of stories of people who discover SSH keys still sitting on the servers for folks who haven't worked there in the last 7 years. Right.
Exactly.
All the time.
So anyway, the folks at MOSH, hey, a little bit of a shout out to you guys.
Right.
I just found it interesting. So there you go.
There you go. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Tim.